Welcome back to my channel. I'm Willovision Online. This video is recording the morning after the night before. Semi-final 1 of Eurovision 2021 has taken place and we have our qualifiers. Unfortunately, not all could go through. So let's talk about what we saw last night and a little bit about the jury final drama. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't just a little bit overwhelmed last night as the contest finally was broadcast on TV across Europe and beyond for the first time in 2 years. Yesterday was the 18th of May. That was the day in which the last final took place in Tel Aviv. So 2 years exactly. And boy, was it missed. The Roop for Lithuania, the perfect choice to be the first act seen on Eurovision in 2 years. And boy, do they get that party started. In each and every one of the dress rehearsals, particularly those with the live audience in for the first time, the reaction to their performance was massive, and rightly so, because for so many, that was the first live performance they will have seen in all the time of the pandemic. Lithuania qualified, and I wasn't surprised because they're a fantastic act. On Fire was perhaps more of a contender than Discotheque, but that doesn't mean they're any less deserving of this accolade as they'll perform in the second half of the grand final on Saturday night. Anna for Slovenia and Amen. She gave it everything in each of her rehearsals. Each time building her confidence and really engaging with the audience and getting their applause and cheers. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be and she didn't successfully get through to the final, which is a shame for Slovenia for this time, but no doubt they'll be back next year. For Russia, Manizha, Russian woman. From the rehearsals, I was in no doubt that this was going to qualify, and Russia, of course, have gone through to the grand final on Saturday night. To recap, Manizha for Russia will perform in the first half of the grand final. Tusse for Sweden and Voices. Each and every rehearsal that went by, he was getting better and better at the cameras, at the connection, and the voice was sounding great. At the moment when he kneeled, you could tell that audience were with him because they cheered aloud, and that wouldn't happen if the connection wasn't there. The performance on the first semi-final is the best that he's put in throughout the rehearsal period, but it must be said that there was a camera issue during the performance where it went to the wrong angle and you weren't seeing the artists on stage. I don't believe that was meant to happen, but something that can be ironed out for Saturday. And Tusse for Sweden will perform in the second half of the grand final. Montaigne for Australia, and for the very first time ever, Eurovision live on tape. What can we say about that performance? It really was as good as if she was there, but unfortunately, qualification didn't come. And Australia, having came as guests in 2015 and qualified directly to the final in 16, 17, 18 and 19, did not make it to this time. We look forward to next year when Australia will be able to travel and be on site at Eurovision wherever it may be. But Montaigne was phenomenal, and maybe in the future she'll do it again. Vasil for North Macedonia, and Here I Stand. The crowd loved Vasil's performance. The reveal of the mirrors, that was a huge moment in each of the dress rehearsals that have taken place in Ahoy. And last night was no exception on TV when you could really hear how euphoric that audience were at his performance. Regrettably, he didn't advance to the final, which is very sad for him, having been there with Tamara in 2019 as a backing vocalist. Vasil is an incredible talent, and maybe we'll see him on the Eurovision stage again in the future. For my own origins, this is the one that was the most disappointing on the night in terms of the non-qualification of Lesley Roy with Maps for Ireland. What can I say? They tried something incredibly ambitious, but unfortunately for Lesley and Ireland in this semi-final, they didn't manage to get through. It'll be interesting to see how close they were when the results are revealed at the weekend. Elena Tsagkrinou for Cyprus. I guess El Diablo was an inevitable qualifier, and yet it seemed in the green room that she spent the entire time on her phone. Oh, we just love our phones, don't we? In some rehearsals it felt like she was phoning it in because she has it off by heart, but each time it mattered in the jury final and again on the semi-final, she really pulls out all the stops to give her very best. And it paid off with Cyprus and their current formula getting them back into the final again this year. And in the press conference last night, Cyprus will perform in the first half of Saturday night's show. The elaborate stage show of Ticks, with the wings and all, clearly did make an impact, as he successfully qualified as the first country to be called in no particular order to get that ticket to Saturday night. In the initial rehearsals, was not removing his sunglasses. However, in subsequent dress rehearsals, including the jury final and the live show, he did remove them, just so you see a moment of him before he puts them back on again. In the press conference room, there was much deliberation, shall we put it that way, in Ticks deciding which one of the rolled up papers that said either first half or second half he should choose. But after a long delay, he decided on one, and when it was unfurled, it said that Norway will perform in the second half of the grand final. Disappointment for Croatia, Albina and Tick-Tock and her dancers, who put on the biggest show that Croatia have definitely brought to Eurovision in all these years. They had everything you could possibly want: the costumes, the dancing, the sassiness, her good voice, and the song, of course. Even after giving such a good performance, it wasn't to be, and she wasn't able to go through to the final. I know a lot of people were upset about this because so much has been put into this entry this year for Croatia. We'll miss them in the final, and we look forward to them being back on stage next time. Hooverphonic for Belgium and The Wrong Place qualified last night. That's Belgium's first qualification since Blanche in 2017. And I think that they actually cracked a smile. Seriously though, it's great to see Belgium back in the final with a group like this and showing that Eurovision doesn't have to be all those bells and whistles. It can be a cool song staged in a filmic and low-key way and yet have that big impact. I'm really pleased to see Belgium back in the final, and they'll be performing in the first half on Saturday. Israel's Alene and Set Me Free qualified for the final last night. From watching the rehearsals leading up to the live show, she was getting better and better, and the performance was coming together in a cohesive way more and more. I did say in an earlier video that I thought that there would be some sort of a split between people voting for Croatia and people voting for Israel, but I do think that both really brought their A game on the live show, so it could have been anybody's. And those whistle notes were in check, meaning that she now has the record for the highest notes performed on the Eurovision stage ever, so well done to her. She was delighted and emotional in the press conference that followed last night's show, and in the draw, Israel will perform in the first half of the grand final. Oh, Roxen for Romania and Amnesia. What a great performer, and someone who was getting better and better through each run of her song. Of course, I must make mention of Monday night's jury final. When Roxen was performing, she removed one of her in-ear monitors because clearly something was wrong. She continued with the song ever so slightly off time, but she did it, and she finished it through after, of course, they were granted the chance to go again, and she was even better in that performance. Last night, you could see that she wasn't as nervous, that her vocals had improved, and that she was able to tell the story of Amnesia in the way that she wanted to. I'm so sorry for her that she wasn't able to get to the final, but she's a young artist, and I would absolutely love to think that Roxen might return to Eurovision for Romania in the not too distant future. While at times during rehearsals, Effendi for Azerbaijan and Matahari didn't seem like it was really going to come off, when the audience are in there and when the showtime comes, somehow that atmosphere changes. And in doing so, there's an elevation for the performance, which clearly caught the eye of the viewers at home and the jury in order for it to qualify last night. Effendi and her team, who were unaffected on Monday night in the jury final in ear drama, they will perform in the second half of the grand final Saturday night. Was it ever in doubt? I don't think so. Shum and Go A for Ukraine are going through to the final, continuing Ukraine's 100% qualification record at Eurovision. This performance stands out from so many, and that electro-folk sound and Katerina's vocals really do make something quite special happen in those 3 minutes. On Monday night, it was clear when Katerina touched her in-ear monitor that something was wrong, but she was able to continue and remained in time and in tune throughout the song, but they did get the chance to go again. And the applause that they got afterwards as that song builds to its finale was huge in the Ahoy. You could clearly see how much it meant to them when they arrived waving their flags in last night's press conference, where they were drawn to perform in the second half of the grand final. And it must be said, when asked which other artists they would have liked to have seen gone through, Katerina said she wanted Montaigne for Australia to get that 10th place if it didn't go to them. And last but by no means least, Malta closed the show. On Monday night, Malta, like Romania and Ukraine, had issues with their in-ear monitors and they got to go again. But of the 3 performances, I would have said that Malta's the least impacted, or that you could have noticed had a problem, due to that sense of just keep going and not show any issue, which was how Destiny managed things on Monday night. Of course, she did get to perform again. And then last night, she brought it. When it matters, she certainly can switch it on. In some of the dress rehearsals, Destiny was holding back a little. She was giving it, and she was certainly strong. But in the live shows and in the jury final, she really can turn it on. She can really switch it up. And in that time, you think, are we really looking at the winner here? Because of how she is able to deliver that message, and also her presence on screen is so engaging. You can't help but love her. It was great to see her smile in the press conference last night. And Malta will be performing in the first half of the grand final. Maybe they'll open it. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, the first semi-final isn't just for the semi-finalists themselves. 3 of the finalists were there to be introduced and to see a clip of their performance. A full version of each of their performances is available on the official YouTube channel for anyone who wants to see that ahead of Saturday night. First up was Måneskin, who spoke to Nikki on the satellite stage, and Damiano, representing them, said that they were really excited to be there. When they were asked about the last time a rock entry had been Lordi, they simply said that they were there to represent Italian rock, and the momentum is certainly with them now, as they are currently leading the odds in the betting to win the Eurovision for Italy. And wouldn't that be amazing? In the dress rehearsal, they performed Ziti Boni in the same costumes they've been wearing for the last number of days, but it's expected they're going to wear something else when it comes to Saturday night. Second to be presented was Jendrik, who spoke to Azealia on the satellite stage, and she asked him, does he really not feel hate? And he said he does, but he can channel it into positives, and that it's about love and not hate, which of course is the message of his song. They showed a clip of his performance. The main thing will be that he can keep up that energy, because he does tend to get a bit out of breath just due to how frenetic that staging is. And lastly, the Netherlands, the biggest cheer of the night, I would say, for Jeangu Macrooy and a birth of a new age. He is such a lovely man, and when he was speaking to Nikki, you could just tell how much it meant to him to be there in front of the live audience, which he makes mention of, and they were cheering with their Netherlands colouring and their flags, and they were so proud of him as he represents the Netherlands at home on Saturday night. Overall last night, the production of the semi-final was fantastic, and our hosts, Azealia, Chantal, Jan and Nikki, did a fantastic job, and particular mention to Chantal, who had to fill. It's been reported that one of the automated cameras stopped working completely during the programme ahead of Ireland's performance, and who had to keep the show going? It was Chantal. You can see the years and years of her TV experience coming to the fore as she ably keeps the show on the road by speaking directly down the camera, by engaging with the audience, and by making sure that time is given to the technicians to get it right ahead of going back to the stage. I'm really looking forward to seeing the hosts tomorrow night and again in the grand final. And so to summarise, it's incredible that Eurovision is back, but of course there is that sense of disappointment for some artists who will not be going through to that grand final on Saturday night. Alarm bells are ringing. Flo Rida has arrived in Rotterdam and will be performing with Senate on the semi-final tomorrow night. The first rehearsal of that takes place this afternoon and the jury final tonight. It's amazing that semi-final 1 has come and gone. Please do subscribe to my channel. This isn't going to be just for this week. My intention is to continue to make Eurovision content throughout the year, because while the shows are off air, that doesn't mean there isn't something going on in the world of Eurovision. Thanks for watching. More Eurovision Song Contest tomorrow.